All right, folks. So, like I was saying in the intro, this guy does need a huge introduction to all of us Caniacs. But those of you that do follow us but don't follow the Canes, this is a good buddy of mine. Met him when I lived down in Raleigh, tailgating one time. My character kind of got introduced to his character, and we just became really good friends after that. So, I want to give a really huge thank you for joining us once again. You've been on our show before, RJ. So, everybody, this is the Florida Caniac.
Appreciate you inviting me over here, man. How's everything with you?
Oh, cold country again. Moved back home to northern New York. I mean, I'm kind of like the Sarah Palin of New York. I can't see Russia from my house, but I can definitely see Canada from my roof. So
Nice.
yeah. So we were recently talking, and we've seen posts on all the Canes social media that you're going to be doing a road tour. If you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about that, the dates, and what you're going to be looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. So normally I come up to Raleigh once a year. Usually it's around the February, March timeframe. I believe the past time I was up there, it was a little bit later due to COVID and the schedule changes and things. So that kind of put a little bit of weird hiccup on things, as you can imagine. But this year I wanted to kind of go more of a go big or go home situation. But with this one, it actually started on my third tailgate down in Sunrise, which was kind of hilarious when the Canes played the Panthers. Wasn't a victorious one for Carolina. I think it went to overtime and didn't go so well, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
But what really helped is the following day, Abby Labar and her crew at Valley Sports made a huge Florida Caniac shout out. And all of a sudden, it just went gangbusters with this whole Florida Caniac thing, and turning into how we have Caniacs in Florida, and there's more than most people think. I'm still getting hits here and there of, hey, I didn't know this existed. I found out about this. This is a thing, huh? So yeah, now that since that's blown up, my fourth tailgate will be in Raleigh, which this is one that a lot of people were hoping that I would do. So that's a good news there. But I have to do a little bit more than that, right? So I'm actually turning it into a little bit of a huge tour situation. So I'm going to be going to four different games. Three of them are going to be Canes games, and one of them is going to be a Admirals game, which is one of the Canes affiliates. So I'm kind of turning it into one of those. And I have to big a huge shout out to the Twisdale family, Pete specifically, who really organized a few of the things that are helping me out with this whole journey. He's organized the Washington Capitals game takeover. So that game's at Washington coming up on the Thursday.
Yep.
And he's got a good amount of Caniacs going on that one. I'm kind of joining his shindig on that one. We're going to be meeting at the Chop House, which is a restaurant in the DC area. It's going to be awesome. Looking really forward to meeting a whole lot more Caniacs out there, and hopefully taking over Washington with our version of Red versus Washington's Red. We're going to rock the real Red, as we're going to say.
Exactly.
Then the following game, the following day, which will be against the Pittsburgh Penguins on that Friday. Again, I'm not doing a tailgate then. That's going to be more of, I'm just going to kind of chill, got to see everybody I haven't seen in a while, kind of do my thing and walk around and, just kind of enjoying myself throughout the whole time. Then the following Saturday, that will be in Norfolk, Virginia. I'm going to see the Admirals play. So I'm looking forward to seeing what I would say the young Canes are doing at that point. And it's kind of a sore subject for me because I never thought I would deal with the Canes affiliate outside the Florida Everblades.
Yeah.
Being a former Everblade myself, this is kind of weird to me. So all this ECHL stuff, all the changes that have been happening, and that league changes so often when it comes to affiliates, and I get that. But Carolina was one of the few that never really changed affiliates up until the past few seasons. So it's really been, for me, emotionally kind of rough because the Everblades kind of gave me a chance, and which ergo Carolina kind of gave me a chance in a way to kind of, hey, see what you got type deal. And that's what got me into the Canes, for those that don't know it out there. So it's a little bit sort of kind of go into it, but I'm okay with, hey, things have got to move on. I did find out that they brought some personnel from Florida over to, follow when they were with Charlotte and now in Norfolk. So that kind of made me feel a little bit better to know that. So I'm okay with that. So, but either way, I'm looking forward to seeing what that affiliate has to offer for Carolina. So I'm looking to see what that's all about. And then that Sunday, the end all be all to this whole tour that I'm doing, and it's going to be the game against the Seattle Kraken in Raleigh. Normally it's been section 328 that had the big tailgate. then the Red Eye Rowdies kind of took over that whole deal, and they made the big tailgate. And that was the last tailgate I went to in Raleigh. It was massive. But again, I got my friends that are really close to me in support of the Florida Caniac stuff that have been asking me, hey, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Well, here's what you can do. in all sort of seriousness. So the first thing I got going on is I'm looking to take over that East parking lot area. So East parking lot, Raleigh, be there. I put on my ad that the gates open at 5, but I plan on being there a little bit earlier than that. How early? I'll let you figure that one out on your own. Let's just go with something way earlier to kind of get things set up. There's going to be tables, there's going to be canopies, there's going to be barbecue provided, believe it or not, by Darth Caniac's crew. Apparently they're starting their own barbecue business going forward, so I'm kind of going to help promote that.
Let me jump in there real quick. So I've had some of his food before, both him and his twin brother's food. It is absolutely fabulous, guys and ladies. Make sure you get there and get some of that food. They're trying to start up his own truck. It's called Bubby's Barbecue or Bubby's BBQ.
Yep.
So I'll let you retake that over. I just wanted to give a loud shout out to them as well too. So
yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate you bringing in that. But yeah, that's who's going to be providing the barbecue and things, and he's going to have the whole setup there. So if you want to see what true North Carolina barbecue has to offer, you heard it from this man himself who's hosting the show. He knows what it's all about. I'm going to be learning about it myself because I've yet to have it. And I will tell you this, I am a pretty hard judge on barbecue, personally, knowing the area as well. So we'll see what it has to say. And I'm looking forward to that part of it. I am bringing my very famous sauce kit game, which everybody knows is pretty much cornhole hockey goal style. So I am bringing that. There will be a prize for the winner of that game. I haven't put any rules out on that just yet, but it'll probably be the same rules if you've been to my tailgates before. So that's not going to be a big, huge difference ordeal there. There's going to be cornhole. I'm hoping there's going to be a lot of people that show up to that. And that's where I'm going to end it. And I mean, I think that's kind of a good, I guess, hats off ending to that tour, because I'm ending it with a huge tailgate, and I hope a lot of you be there. If you're not there, then I don't know what kind of Caniac you really are. Number 2, it's against the Seattle Kraken, and Ron Francis might actually be in the building again, which would be pretty neat. And I would kind of look forward to seeing it. And obviously, with the local affiliates that Seattle has, that also means John Forsland could be in the building again. So I'm really looking forward to see if I run into good old Forsey again. It's going to be really interesting to see Mike Maniscalco and John Forsland literally in the same press box for the first time ever, as newscasters and as, broadcast announcers for their Villa teams, where it used to be Mike Maniscalco was technically just below John Forsland. Now they're on even keel. So this is going to be really different when it comes to that. Exactly. But that's really it. That's it. It's a 4-game tour. I'm going to be driving the entire way. I will be probably doing some Facebook Live progresses along the way, kind of going from there. But I'm really looking forward to this one. It's going to be, this is going to be my biggest road trips I've done in a long time. And it'll probably be one of my last few ones, to be upfront with you, just simply because I'm a family man now. I got to watch out for that. And the following season, the little man's going to be coming with me on these. So I got to make it a little bit more kid friendly down the road. So you want to see this guy get a super nuts and super crazy with drinks provided and barbecue provided, come on down to the East lot for the Sunday game. But I want to see everybody at all the games. I'm looking forward to this whole thing.
Good. If I could be there, I'd definitely be there. I probably would be stumbling in because I'd probably show up at like 11 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. I know Sundays are usually church days. So folks, my church is a hockey arena. So, I mean, I do a lot of praising and a lot of standing and a lot of dancing when I go to games. And if you remember me being the Kilted Caniac, I gave my praise on Sundays when they were Sunday games. And when you spoke about barbecue, I'm the same way up here in the North Country when I go out and I try to ask for sweet tea and they go, well, we don't have sweet tea, but we can bring you sugar. And I just give them that evil death stare like, no, just bring me this raspberry iced tea and we'll call it a even.
Yeah, I'm not a sweet tea drinker, to be upfront with you. So I'm probably the only person probably going in the area. It's like, oh, I get it. But I'm not a sweet tea guy. But when I see people talk about sugar packets and tea, they kind of give people that death stare, that weird meme, like angry cat meme or something like that to people. And I'm like, Yeah, so I can kind of relate. I can't relate to it, but I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, exactly. So for all of you that are also interested in any kind of Florida Caniac merchandise, I am wearing one of your shirts that you gave me a couple years ago.
Oh yeah.
A lot of my other cane stuff is still down in my storage unit down in Raleigh. I do have a little bit behind me, as you can see, and as you can see behind RJ, you've done a number on that man cave, RJ. Not even gonna lie.
Yeah, this is
Um,
this was one of the few additions to the locker room look with the fridge in the back. So I mean, I got the full setup now officially done. I kind of tweak things here and there every season to kind of give it a new look always. So, but back to the Caniac shirts. The bad news and good news on the Caniac shirts. The bad news, you can only buy them online right now, because the good news is I'm sold out.
oh,
um,
congratulations.
I am, yeah, thank you. I'm fully sold out of t-shirts in person. Believe it or not, the last tailgate wiped me out, and the new supplier right now is online only. I'm looking for a different supplier to give me some more, in inventory shirts. I'm working on that as we speak. So hopefully I can get something. I'll definitely have something before the next tailgate and Sunrise, which it could be two. Just a heads up for anybody. Tailgate 5 will happen at Sunrise. There could be a Tailgate 6 in Sunrise because the All-Star game's coming to town. So
Nice.
there might be something with that, but I haven't quite put any details in that, obviously.
Yep.
But yeah, stickers will be available for sale and things like that. But I'll have Jeff post the website to where you can buy the shirts and everything like that. And you guys can kind of check it out. There's all sorts of cool stuff on that website, by the way. And I mean,
And
all different logos, all different designs. If you like the standard Florida Caniac look with the Canes colors, I have that. My Miami Vice edition is on there, which has been very popular, might I add you. And I can't believe how popular that item has been. The stickers are on there as well for purchase, and I also have the other different Florida Caniac editions. My Coral edition, which has been somewhat popular but not the greatest, but I've had to change it due to copyright issues, as we all know. But hey, it is what it is. But definitely check it out. There's a lot of cool stuff on that website, guys.
so if I did purchase the Miami Vice style one, can I kind of like pretend I'm Don Johnson or
Hey, that's on you, man. That's on you.
I mean, I'm not as fly as Don Johnson and his partner, but I'll attempt it. But yeah, right after the show, I'll go ahead. I'll go right into a developing mode and just try to push this out as much as I can before Thursday, as
Yeah,
well as
appreciate it.
next weekend. I did contact my good buddy Eric at Instilled Distillery. For all you folks down there in North Carolina, make sure you get your, excuse my language, but get your asses out to Instilled Distillery. He Eric there has some really great rum products there, some really great drinks. He's always doing different things too at Instilled Distillery in Clayton. I'll give the address and everything at the end of the show, but make sure you check that out. I do know he's going to try to get in contact with you. So,
Nice. Thank
um,
you.
and then I also got a buddy down there that I grew up with here in upstate New York. He lives down in Raleigh now. I told him to go ahead and go introduce himself to you on Sunday. I'd probably try to hook him up with tickets if I can. But yeah, definitely, folks, get out there this weekend. If you're going to the game on Thursday on the 3rd, make sure you find RJ. If you're going to be at any one of those games that RJ is going to, from firsthand and those that know RJ, you will have an amazing time. Um, and just speaking of everything that's going on, what about those hurricanes?
Absolutely. And for those, and before I get into those hurricanes, if you're trying to find me and I'm a little difficult, hard to find, which I'm not, my hat is a Florida Caniac hat, so it'll be the Florida logo, not the old alternate logo like I'm wearing right now. But it's not going to be hard to find me. I can tell you that much. But let's talk about those guys who've been winning 5 straight now. All of a sudden, huh? I'll tell you what. I thought Edmonton, the game, I didn't watch much of the Edmonton game. I did watch the highlight of it, and they seem to have a good grasp of that. And they've been doing that a lot lately. It's been a lot of heavy possessions and things, but that's been their MO
Yep.
since Brindamore took over anyway. So it wasn't anything new. It was just actually execution. That's what it all came down to. And Edmonton was actually doing some proper execution as well from the highlights I saw. So I wasn't too big on that game. I just, if they came out the win, they came out with the win. Okay. They're going to have more important games coming up as well. They got one up against Detroit coming up on Tuesday, which I think is a must win.
Yep.
Detroit's just, they're actually better than most teams think.
Yep.
And that could be a trap game. So you got to be careful with that one. But they'll have some breaks, and then they go on to my 4-game series coming up here with Washington. I'm sorry, 3-game series come here with Washington, Pittsburgh, and Seattle,
Yep.
which 2 of the 3 are very formidable opponents. Seattle, if they don't, I'm just going to say it right now. If they don't beat Seattle at home, when Seattle's on the beginning of a road trip, trying to get their feet wet, an East Coast road trip for them.
Exactly.
They must be taking a day off mentally. Yep. It's just that simple. But I don't see that happening. And then another fun stat, not to get back to me and everything like that. But when I am in town, they do have a very good track record. I've only witnessed them lose twice at PNC Arena the past 5-6 years. So since this whole Florida Caniac thing started, it's been only 2 losses for this team. Not to jinx myself or anything like that, but they have a pretty good track record when it comes to A, Florida Caniac being in town, or B, Whalers night. Just going to throw those 2 things out there. Another fun fact, which is really, really odd to talk about, and this is the 3rd year in a row this has actually happened. I am going to see Carolina not in red sweaters for the 3rd season in a row.
Really?
Every past 3 years I have seen them, it's either been the roads or the black alternates or the Whaler jerseys. Not had in those past 3 seasons, I've yet to see them in the red sweaters in person. It's the weirdest stat ever. I don't get it, but I'll take it. Whatever.
Exactly. Not to switch teams or anything, but when you're talking about streaks, I'm not saying I was a lucky streak or anything, but the local college team that I support here in Northern New York, the Clarkson Golden Knights, I started going to their games, and they went on an 11-game win streak. I mean, that's unheard of in college hockey at times. I mean, they just completely, and they even took out Caniac, which is Brindamore's kids team, and that was probably one of the best games that I'd seen in a long time, other than the 4-0 deficit where they came back with they tied it up with 1.7 seconds left on the clock and brought it into overtime and won a shootout. But I've already told that story in the past. But yeah, it's one of those records. And then they lost last weekend to, I believe, it was either Cornell or one other team. I forgot what it was, but they did lose on Friday, but it wasn't in regulation. So my winning streak is still intact for regulation. They lost into overtime, and then they brought it back and won last night. So maybe I have that gift of walking into buildings and teams start picking up. But I mean, what's your when the season first started with the Canes? What was your overall impression like? Did you think they were going to do this good, or did you think that they were going to kind of bounce back and forth between a playoff spot versus a non-playoff spot?
I will say, I expected them to not just go for a playoff spot. I expected them to be competitive for a cup contention. It's just that simple. The past few seasons where they had disappointment in the playoffs is a prime example of it. You could tell they were not satisfied with that. Now, first time making a playoffs in forever when they made the Eastern Conference Final against Boston and got swept. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of those guys' first time in the playoffs ever. I mean, let's face it, it's Carolina's it was their first time in 9-10 seasons, for crying out loud. So yeah, everybody's first time around for the playoffs, except for maybe Justin Williams and a few other guys, and that's about it. And then you got this new core group that now has that playoff taste, and they want more out of it. Absolutely. So do they want to cut? Brendan Moore is definitely not happy with it as a coach. He wants to go all the way, and I don't blame him. So I'm on the aspect of when I first saw this team come into the season, I was expecting to be cup contenders all the way through. They have to get over the hurdle, in my opinion, of the Eastern Conference Final, which has been duping in the past 2 final appearances where they got swept both times, might I add you. So the first time was I believe Pittsburgh in a sweep, and I think Pittsburgh ended up winning the cup, and that was 2009. And then this past one against Boston, where Boston ended up losing to the cup, and we all got to see Marchand in tears.
Yeah.
which was kind of surreal. Um, but these past few ones, yeah, the COVID playoff, or the COVID Cup, everybody calls it, with the asterisks. These past two ones, and they're both won by the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they're all. I mean, there's so much talent right now in the Metropolitan. They have to. I don't think they have to win the 1 seed, just to throw that in there. But I think a 2 seed or better would be okay. I'm fine with that. I don't want them to win the President's Trophy. I don't think it's needed. If it's a plus, whatever. But the curse of the President's Trophy lives, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yes, I expected them, to answer your question, I expect them to be Cup contenders. If you look at the team shirts after practices, during drills, all the little team events and things like that, their shirts on the back of them have Stanley Cup shaped, stuff that's in there with like compete, care, encouragement, like all those words are in there. And it's in the shape of a Stanley Cup. So they have those types of t-shirts on them. So obviously the main goal is the Stanley Cup. So yeah, absolutely Cup contenders all the way through.
And if correct, when they did win the cup in 06, wasn't there like some kind of motto that they had, and it still kind of like hangs up in the locker room? I forgot what the motto was, but they had something going for them, and they just kept on using it over and over and over again, which kind of like helped them push through the playoffs and then push into the actual Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, they had that motto. I think it was like "It takes all of us" or something like that. I think
Yeah.
it was something related to that, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I mean, that was that. I mean, Brendan Moore literally brought that attitude into this locker room once Bill Peters left. So I think that's part of it as well. He brought the right people in to kind of have that mentality, to have that type of mindset. And I'm not talking players, I'm talking personnel. I'm talking, Bill Berniston. I'm talking, Tim Gleason. I'm talking those guys all the way through. So you bring the right people, and Gleason's one of those guys that wasn't part of that Cup winning team, but I would say he was the last to have that mentality after Brendan Moore retired, that still was on the team eventually.
Yeah. Coming into the season, I mean, when I saw him pick up Freddie Anderson, I was happy, but at the same time, I mean, we all know his playoff repertoire. Especially, I mean, he's only really seen it with Toronto, and we all know that the teams that were in front of him in Toronto were not the best teams. I mean, yeah, they had some solid playoff chances, but they just kind of like didn't progress the way that we all thought they would. With the team in front of them now, all the acquisitions, do you think they will be able to get Freddie past that first round, as well as the way that he's been playing? Because I mean, he's been playing his tits off, but do you think that's lingering on his mind, like that first round trying to advance to the second round?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're talking a guy who has 29 wins in this season, 930 save percentage this season, which is unheard of in today's NHL, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
With
yeah.
all the restrictions and things like that the goalies have to go through with pads and things like that and all that kind of crap. So no, he's got a better defensive core. He got I felt he kind of got thrown to the wolves in Toronto. But the question would remain to a lot of people, especially the media, whose curse is it, Toronto's or Freddie Anderson's?
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards Toronto because all the highlights go to Toronto.
Yep.
Freddie Anderson left all that in Toronto. And everybody still jokes about Toronto. I'm still joking that Toronto has TikTok as an ad on their freaking helmets, for crying out loud. That I don't understand, but hey, whatever floats the boat. I think that's just a Austin Matthews thing personally, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But I think it's not just, but the thing is Freddie Anderson has adopted himself into the Caniac Nation, into the Rob Brindamore mindset. I don't see that being a big deal. I don't see that being the reason. I don't see him being the reason that he can't go over the hump. It takes the entire team. It takes all of us, which was the motto. I had to remember it for a little bit. It takes the entire team to do it. And it's not just the players, it's everybody that prepare them properly as well. So I'm going with no. I don't think that's a lingering issue. I don't think it's his fault. No matter what, he has a much better defensive team. But I will say this, it's going to be a no excuses thing. all the way through. So if he's going to throw an excuse out there, then I'll be disappointed. If he takes the blame for it, I won't be disappointed at all. I'll take that.
I think a really big prime example of us talking about Freddie Anderson with the Canes and Freddie Anderson with Toronto is you take a look at Mrazek, who was with Carolina for the last two and a half, 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's a great example. Honestly, that's a very good example. I mean, you got, and Mrazek can't stay healthy either, which makes it a difficult task to talk about, because you got another guy in there who's not bad.
Yeah.
But again, you have, and I hate to throw payroll into the mix, but you have a team that put literally darn near 2/3 of their team salary into 4 guys.
Yep.
Versus a team who put an even amount of salary cap all over the place, except for maybe like 2 or 3 guys, but it's not 2/3 of the team salary darn near. Like Toronto's is. Toronto has an AHL type defensive core, which they can improve that very cost effectively. I could see them making a move in the trade deadline to make that work. But yeah, I mean, you hit the nail right there. I mean, it doesn't matter who's behind the net. You can tell who the real fault is.
Yep. And I mean, I've watched a few of those Toronto games, and I watched the one last week with Montreal, and Mrazek started that game, and you just feel bad for the guy, because I mean, it's like this one team coming in that everybody is supposed to kind of like slap around a little bit, and then all of a sudden Montreal just comes out with that victory, and you see Mrazek being hung out to dry half the time, and it's really hard to watch. I mean, us both being goalies and just sitting there watching.
I think the worst example, or the better example of how atrocious it really was the Toronto-Detroit game.
Oh, yeah.
The 10-7, what the heck happened out there? Is that a low-scoring football game, or what the heck was that? So,
and
I think Toronto blew a lead too. I think Toronto blew a 5-goal lead or something like that at one point.
I'm not sure if it was Detroit that pulled their goalie, like they had either Grice or Nedeljkovic start, pulled them.
It was Nedeljkovic.
Yeah. And they put him right back in. And I mean, I was watching the last couple of goals on that. And I mean, that the very last goal that went on Ned. I mean, Ned's a great goalie. I mean, you watch him, he's a great goalie. But that one drop pass that completely threw Nedeljkovic way out of position, I mean, that was just a beautiful play. I mean, nothing could have stopped that one. And then I think, and you can either agree to disagree or agree to agree, but I think one of the best acquisitions was Tony DeAngelo.
Okay, I knew this was coming up. I'm going to start with the beginning of this whole thing and into where I feel about it. And I'm going to start, here's the very beginning of it. When TDA got signed, I don't know how many messages I got. I lost count after 14 because it went to the hundreds at that point.
Yeah.
And then I saw the Canes posts. I saw the official Facebook group page posts. I saw the Instagram posts. And you had these people dropping like flies as season ticket holders over this one signing. And then there was the memes that even I created one of a Caniac Karen, or Karen's Caniacs, as I call them, of people bitching at their season ticket rep as if they have any say whatsoever what the team does, and cancel their season tickets because of this one signing. Let's fast forward to 3 months into the season. All of a sudden, Tony DeAngelo's making plays. He's playing defense. He's got grit. He's scoring game-winning goals. He's scoring goals. He's making moves on the power play. He's quarterbacking the power play.
Yep.
He's doing everything he has to do. Let's fast forward to now. Unfortunately, he's got a midsection injury that's keeping him out for a month. This guy's got a plus 19 as his plus minus. People need to shut up when it comes to his play. But everybody is still questioning. But there's people out there that are still questioning his character. Now that I've laid the groundwork of this whole situation and how this season has gone. So the beginning of the season, people were kind of griping and complaining, and I hate to use this word, bitching about this and being Karens all the way through. Apologies for those actually named Karen. Then you got this season starting over, and you got only half of those people convinced that this was a good signing. I'm going to tell this to everybody else that canceled their season ticket package, that said, see ya, I don't want to be Caniac anymore. And to anybody else that really didn't do their due diligence and understanding the way how the salary cap works, front office works, and all that simple stuff. Which, by the add, if you're a football follower, you kind of can understand where it would actually be coming from, or if you would pay attention to it. Do you feel stupid yet? Is my question. And the reason why is, you're going to tell me that you have an organization that has a chance of looking at a player who has been an incredible star for this league, for a different team, which we all know which that team is, because apparently Carolina has to be trade partners with them. No, I'm not saying Chicago. You're talking about a player who had to humble up a little bit to try to get back on a team. You're going to sit here and tell me that Carolina's front office staff, Rod Brindamore, Tom Dundon, Tim Gleason, Bill Berniston, Don Waddell, they didn't sit down with this kid and interview the crap out of him and maybe talk to the people around him, talk to his coaches in the past, talk to his counselor, I'm assuming he's this guy talked to, maybe talk to his agent, maybe talk to his family of some sort that might have affiliation somewhere in hockey. You're not telling me that this team did their homework before they signed this guy on a very low quality contract?
Yeah.
Shut up, people. Stop complaining
Yep.
about your season tickets being ruined because they signed 77.
Yep.
TDA himself, Tony D'Angelo. By the way, I was on board with it all the way through. I am one of the few guys who will openly admit this is actually a good signing if it works out.
Well, you got
Do we know it's going to work out? No. Whatever. I mean, you have literally an insurance policy written in the contract. You lose only $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously? Get out of here, people. But that's my feeling on it, and I'm okay with it. So I hope that, those people that felt the way they did in the beginning have hopefully turned the corner on this whole thing, or beginning to. He's even getting praises by fans in the stands. He was the first star, and they shouted his name.
Yeah.
I remember that one. That was one of my favorite first stars of the game ever. Because this guy literally had to bounce back in the league and crawl his way back to do something about it. And I think he's done a pretty good job. So I hope they sign him long term. And I'd be okay if you overpay him a little bit.
I'm one of the second ones that'll admit, I love this signing. I mean, me being not only a Canes fan, but a Rangers fan, watching him in the games. I mean, this guy knows how to play hockey. He knows where to be. And the power play was and still is the way it is now because of what he's done this past year. And that's why I feel that they are, like, a lot of those wins, I feel, is because he was on the ice.
Right.
And they wouldn't be where they are. I mean, there's certain situations where he wasn't even looking to score. And every time he shoots, he's consistently looking for someone for a deflection. He doesn't care about the goals. He just wants to make sure the puck gets in the net. And just about every one of his shots is going deflection, either way you look at it. And if he scores, he's just as shocked that it went in off of his own stick than anybody else on the ice. The next pickup that I want to talk about is KK. I mean, it's almost like the love-hate stepdaddy, stepmommy kind of relationship.
That is the ultimate slap in the face deal I've ever seen, ever, when it comes to this. I honestly didn't think Don Waddell had it in him to actually go forward with it. I guarantee that was a Tom Dundon move, not a Don Waddell move. I actually guarantee it. You go after a guy, and in Montreal, you say, "Oh, we have a restricted free agent in Sebastian Aho. Let's throw him a qualifying offer. Let's see if we can get him in Montreal." Because let's face it, Montreal, that dude was so desperate to try to keep his GM job. Yeah. He was so desperate, he had to go for it. And at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, oh boy. And what he offered him was exactly what I thought Tom Dundon was going to offer him and Don Waddell was going to offer him. So the fact that Waddell literally took his sweet time to match it, because if he matched it too soon, you know what would have happened. It would have been a lot worse for Carolina than it would have been later. So now you have a matching offer. Montreal's kind of screwed themselves.
Yep.
So the fact that Casper Kakiniemi came around and became his own RFA, Carolina's like, hey, you want to play a year for us for about $6 million? What the heck? Just figure what the heck happened. And Montreal's like, yeah, I don't think he's worth that. Granted, if you look at his stats in Montreal, he was top 5 in just about every category.
Oh yeah.
So what made him not worth $6 million for you guys? I don't know, or 6.5 if I remember correctly.
I think
So I'm
what
like,
happened there was last year during the playoffs, they sat him like the last couple games, if I'm correct, from the
right,
playoffs, and they really didn't say why. It's not like he was injured or anything. They just didn't feel like he was performing.
right.
Um,
I thought it was a little bit deeper than that personally, but I'm not sure. Again, we don't know what
yeah.
goes on behind those offices or anything like that, or what the coach had against him or anything. So, but I guarantee you that's literally, in my opinion, started a ripple effect of what Montreal is today.
Oh yeah, and every time I see him smiling on the bench, I don't think it's just because he's winning. I think it's just kind of like one of those digs at Montreal to be like, "Hey, look, my team's winning. How you guys doing?"
Yeah, not even, but I mean, he's just having a good time, and he's
Yeah,
with some people that he can relate to, so that works out pretty well.
yeah. I mean, and the Canes have some really great fins. And if you paid attention to the Olympics, I mean, you had some really great fins that were playing in the not only just the male
Yeah,
division but the female division too. Um, but if I was Tom Waddell or Tom Dundon or Don Waddell, I'd definitely be looking at the 17-year-old from Slovakia. I mean, I really hope he's on their radar. That kid was phenomenal in the Olympics. 17 years old, led the Olympics with 7 goals in the men's league.
yeah.
He was defying like all kinds of hockey gravity. The puck would find him, and it would find the back of the net just as quick as it found him. So
That's assuming he would even fall that low in the draft order, to be honest with you, if you think about it.
yeah,
So I guarantee he's going to be looked at by everybody else. Montreal's going to be one that's going to look at it because they're going to have a high draft pick.
oh yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if Edmonton tries to trade up to get that kid. I know you're talking about. I just can't think of his name for crying out loud. But I think,
Sapkowski or something like that.
yeah, I don't like talking about drafts too early because number one, I don't pay much attention to a lot of the players until it gets closer to draft time, and I do my due diligence on it. But at the same time, I think that I just don't. I don't know. I mean, it's just I think that what was I going to say? I can't think of it for some reason, but I just think that talking about the draft is a little much, even though there's
Yeah,
already all this due diligence. There's so much scouting that goes on. You really don't know who you pick.
yo,
You could get you could get. I mean, I'll give Jonathan Drew as like literally the best example, and Sebastian is another good example of this. When it comes to the NHL draft, you really don't know who you're going to get. The top pick, maybe the second pick, depending on the draft year, ends up in the NHL automatically, and they kind of go gangbusters all the way through, right?
yo,
Um, but there's many cases like a Jonathan Druid or a Sebastian Aho who got picked second overall and I believe 22nd overall, respectively,
yo,
or what in the second round, whatever. I think it was way back. 12th pick, second round, something like that. What Aho got, I can't remember. It was like 40th. I can't remember.
yeah,
Um, that um, that is a perfect example of what you might really get.
yeah,
So Drew, it took a little bit of time. He had to go back to the minors his first season with the Lightning. Then he got traded to Montreal, and boom, Aho just kind of developed his way through, and then got it. And I think the later picks are better for that.
yeah.
I just think that the draft is just kind of a crapshoot, like a literal crapshoot.
Yep.
That's my only issue with that. Other
Another
than
prime
that, I mean,
example.
yeah,
Another prime example of a really late draft pick. I mean, that nobody knew about was Lundqvist. Lundqvist was what was it, fourth or fifth round, like 117th or 200 and something pick.
right.
And look
So
at
I mean,
so
no, I hear it. The only one I would say is I have my eyes on a team. I will go back to one player. He's a he's a defenseman for Team USA that I'm kind of keeping my eyes on, only because I have a tie with him at work, believe it or not, with his cousin.
Oh, okay.
But David Warsofsky, defenseman out of Marshfield, Massachusetts. He was actually he plays for Boston University right now. So
Okay. Yeah.
he might be one to kind of pay attention to. He's actually one of the older ones on the team. So just something to think about there. But he's a pretty solid kid. So I would check it out. I would check that kid out if anything.
Definitely. I'll probably take a look at him. I know we got the trades coming up soon. I don't see Carolina doing too much on that aspect just because they might buy instead of sell, but I don't I think the
There's
biggest
one team in the trade deadline that I'm really worried about that could really heavily buy a lot of players or buy what they need and take them over the hump. Actually, two teams. I take that back. The Rangers, because they have the most cap space to use to fill that spot, and the Florida Panthers, because they literally are going all in.
Oh yeah.
And Carolina's record against Florida this season has not been that good.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's one of those things where the playoffs really is going to be a whole different beast anyway. But if Florida gets a good enough defenseman that can skate and have size, I would kind of be a little worried about it. As far as the Rangers go, they can really pluck anybody they need. And if they want to get another score out there, I would be worried about it. They don't need defense because their defense is pretty solid.
Yeah.
They could use another score. And I don't want them to use another score personally because you would love it, I know. But
right now I'm not really loving the Rangers right now, so to speak.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, not tonight anyway.
But if Carolina was going to go after somebody, I would say it would be an insurance player as a forward to kind of fill in what I guess I hate to throw Martin Hook under the bus, but what Martin Hook can't do, for example. But they need a guy like Martin Hook, so it's kind of hard to really say. Do you really want to add a player to this roster? I don't think they should, but I wouldn't be upset if they did. The player I'd be worried that they would trade away is a new fan favorite, Mr. Poke the Bear, Ethan Bear. That'd be my only concern is you're going to get rid. You might have to get rid of a little size, I feel, to do that. But they'd be okay because they got grit on the team anyway, which is to me a little bit more important than size. But if I had to go trade route for Carolina, I hate to say Ethan Bear, but he might be the one guy that you might have to kind of let loose if you're going to do anything at all. But I don't see them doing it.
So I might get slapped around on this one a little bit, but we've had a lot of really young studs come up through Chicago lately.
Mm-hmm.
The one big upset that I really didn't like, and a lot of us did voice our concerns on, was the goaltender out of Minnesota. I felt that they did want to offer him a professional contract, but at the same time, you're taking a kid straight out of college and putting him right into NHL level. That's like, I mean, I'm trying to think of an analogy for that one, and I just don't think that they gave him the comp. Okay, I got to word this just right.
Let me help you out a little bit if you don't mind.
Go for it.
You ever seen that? Remember that movie, The Scout, where Brendan Fraser, where he was the baseball player that came out of the blue in Mexico or something like that?
Yep.
And the beginning of that movie, the scout himself brought this kid to the Yankees, and he literally like crashed and burned, didn't even throw pitches, ran off the pitching mound.
Yep.
That's what this kid reminds me of. Is that kid from the kid from the Scout that ran off the field and fear.
Yeah.
I bring that up because although very exciting for a kid out of nowhere to show up for this team, that I don't know how desperate Carolina was for a goaltender, but I guess they were desperate and grabbed the first potential draft pick and just signed him and said, "Hey, we're not going to draft you. We're just going to grab you."
Yep.
Okay, cool. But I think they ruined him by just throwing him to the Wolves in a way. No pun intended to the Chicago Wolves. But I mean, I don't know what the situation was. I know there was a COVID protocol thing. I know there was an injury thing. And I know Wolves were kind of tied in with what they needed to use. And I think they had to send somebody to Norfolk at one point. So I think understood they were desperate. Um, I just kind of wish they grabbed somebody from either the Admirals or the Wolves, or if they were able to. I don't know the situation. I can remember all that situation. I know there was a lot going on with that. I mean, and I get desperate times call for desperate measures. I get it. I can kind of fully understand that. But at the same time, I can't fault him for doing it if they were that desperate.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say is that the player just wasn't quite ready mentally. So was his skill there? Absolutely. Was everything else there? Absolutely. His brain was not.
Exactly.
And it is what it is. And hey, it's one of those things where you had to fill a void. The void was filled. It's done. Move on. They've only lost 11 games this season. People chill.
And then, I mean, the one that really shocked me was Jarvis that came up. I mean, because he was only on like the 10. They had to get rid of. They either had to make the choice after 10 games whether to keep him or to send him back down. And I mean, he just came out of nowhere. And
well, you knew they were going to keep him. Let's face it. If they weren't going to keep him, like you're real. I mean, they were not going to risk him being moved around.
Yeah.
So you had to keep that guy. I think it costed him somebody else that they wanted to keep, but whatever. I mean, that's a heck of a player. And I think he's top 10 on that team in scoring too, and points. So, I mean, let's keep this kid.
And then Lawrence came out of nowhere this season. I know they had him up a few times last season. He made an impression. And then the other one that I think the Canes should use as either trade bait or maybe a deal later on in the future is Jack Drury. He's an amazing player, but I think they could get so much for that one person from another team and just send a package with him. He is a great player, don't get me wrong, but I don't see him staying in the Canes organization as long as they want him to. And he could be utilized so much more because the Canes have this team that's probably going to stay around for at least another year, or a good core of them right now. And Jack Drury, I think, should be playing up in the NHL, especially what he showed us in the few games that he played with the Canes. I mean,
I would say he would be moved up next year because there's a big factor that comes in. There's one player that's a big factor that we keep forgetting about. It's Kasperi Kotkaniemi. He's got a 1-year deal at 6.5. He's going to be a free agent and free range. The question is, if he stays, then you have that problem you're talking about.
Yeah.
If he moves on, you pluck Drury right in, no big deal. At the same time, I believe the Jordan Staal contract is coming up soon, and he's got to make a decision, unfortunately. And we all know what this decision really relies on. You got some other core for, I think Martin Hook's contract's coming up soon. So keep that in mind. I don't think he's re-signed yet. His is only 2 years. So you got some players you can kind of shuffle around and handle it. So they're not going to make a move until they figure out what's going on with those core guys. And those core guys that are going to be unrestricted free agents, let's face it, they could test the market if they want to. I would let them just see where they're at. And they have every right to do that. They said Mrazek, go ahead and go nuts. They said to Aho, go ahead, see if anybody wants to bite. And sure enough, Montreal was stupid enough to bite. So it's not out of the realm for teams to allow players to do that. But I mean, as far as a Drew, I wouldn't trade Drew away. I would just hold on to him and see, what goes on. If you're looking at it from a front office point of view, from a team point of view, you don't want to lose this kid. Absolutely. Yeah. This is a future talent. And everything about Jack Drury, unfortunately, screams Adam Fox all over again.
Yeah.
Or Adam Fox, he just wanted to go to his hometown team. Everybody took offense that he didn't want to play for Carolina because it's Carolina. He wants to live in North Carolina. He didn't understand that as a kid. No, he did. He just wanted to play with his childhood team.
Yeah.
But nobody understood that at the time.
And I think that was the best move too. I mean, out of all honesty, I think that was probably a better move to let him go
Yep.
versus to where the Canes are now, where they, I mean, yeah, great player. I mean, he is fitting in so well with the Rangers.
Yeah.
You watch
I mean, the
him. I
guy already
mean,
won a Norris Trophy for crying out
yeah,
loud. So I mean,
and he was all star
that's insane.
quality.
Yeah.
So I know it's getting late. Before we close out, looking at the standings right now, who do you, if we were to go to the playoffs tomorrow, who would you rather play in the first round? Would you rather play
Mm,
Washington or would you rather play? I mean, it's pretty much set up right now. I mean, you look at the standings and the Washington Capitals are ousting um, by a 10-point gap against the next person in line. But say if Washington
right.
starts going on a losing streak, who would you rather have start having a winning streak and take over that last seed in the
So
Metro?
first, um, don't if Carol because right now the last thing I saw, Carolina was a 1 seed and they were going to play the second wild card team.
Yeah, which is
So
the
I'm going to
Capitals
base
right now.
which is the Capitals right now. However, another wild card team has been creeping back and forth with them, and it's been the Boston Bruins.
Yeah,
I would rather have Boston.
rather have
As
Boston.
crazy as that sounds,
Nope.
allow me to explain. Um, I don't want to deal with another Washington rematch again because we all know what could potentially happen with that.
Yeah, 7 games.
And I'd be fine with that. 7 games, double overtime, all that kind of jazz could go either way, right?
Yep.
The entire, just from a fan base point of view, with the people that shift around between their other team and Carolina fans like yourself,
Yep.
Boston is the one that a lot of people do that with, but at the same time, this is the most hated team in recent memory for Caniacs out there as well, based on the previous history with them in the playoffs and things.
Yep.
So I would say rip the Band-Aid and take on Boston and end it right then and there. The only other team I would dread to see in the playoffs right now is Florida, but Florida has a shaky playoff streak as well. So there's that. The other one I would not mind ripping the Band-Aid off and seeing again or ever in the playoffs. Yeah, it would be again. I'm sorry. It would be Tampa Bay. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's rip their Band-Aid off too. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. Honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you play in the playoffs. It's all going to be a great matchup regardless.
Yep.
I mean, we saw Columbus sweep Tampa Bay, which was hilarious. And then they just came back and won 2 cups in a row, but whatever.
Exactly.
I just think that I would like to see Boston just so I could say, so we can say if granted they beat Boston and it's the best of 7, you got the monkey off your back, move forward, get that stress out. So Boston would be my go-to.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. I mean, since they're in a different conference, they only play them 3 times a year. But out of those 3 games, I did the numbers on this one. Out of the 3 games, I believe Boston had 99 shots on Freddie Anderson in all 3 games that they faced us, and Freddie only allowed 1, just 1. That, I mean, that's just unbelievable against one team, especially his history with Boston, with another team. And then on top of that, I believe the Canes scored 16 out of, I want to, I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but I think it was either out of 60 some odd shots or 70 some odd shots. I'm not
Right.
100%.
Better quality hockey pretty much is what you're saying. So, I mean, I just think that, again, I'd rather rip the Band-Aid off because, yeah, regular season numbers, those are awesome.
Yep.
Playoffs are a different animal.
Yep.
So Boston, we have seen before, especially the COVID season, where they were literally the President's Trophy winners or whatever, or they were technically the real top seed, and they took on Carolina in a 4-versus-5 matchup, which I think was atrociously wrong, but that's just me personally. I don't like the way how that was set up. When it comes to, I mean, I get what the NHL had to do
Yeah.
to make
Yep.
it work, and that's not what I'm mad at. I'm mad at the fact that it ended up working that way for Boston versus Carolina.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, whatever. But I would rather have that. Like I said, I'd rather have that Band-Aid ripped off, because Boston's actually a very good playoff team, no matter who's on their ice.
Yep.
They could have a bunch of scrubs out there and they somehow go out there and win.
Exactly.
So
They
rip the
even
Band-Aid off and beat
bubble.
Boston.
They proved that in
Yep.
the bubble. They didn't care in the round robin top 4 teams. They come out and all of a sudden they're in like the last or they make it to the third round again, if correct.
Yep.
So
I'd rather just rip that Band-Aid off. Let's go.
exactly. Now, fast forward down the road, Canes make it through all 3 rounds. They're heading to the Stanley Cup Finals. Who in the West would you want to see them play?
Doesn't matter.
West doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. But I would say the most dangerous team that's playoff ready would be Colorado.
Yeah.
So I would think the Stanley Cup Finals of natural disasters would actually be pretty cool.
Yep.
I wouldn't mind. I mean, everybody, the fan favorite everybody wants is Vegas. I get it. Whatever. Whatever. But I think that but if there's one team that people better be worried about, if they could pull it through and if they could pull it off, Minnesota.
Oh yeah, they're on a tear as well too.
Mm-hmm.
I think my biggest fear would be either, and I know I'm gonna probably bust something here, but I mean right now it's really close for the wild card positions. I mean between Edmonton, Nashville, and Dallas. Edmonton and Dallas are kind of like teeter-tottering with each other. But folks, watch out for Vancouver. Vancouver, I know it might be a little
I can
too late.
see it. I can see it. I can see them making a push, but I don't see them doing much when if they make that push, is all I'm saying. Minnesota is, to me, the most complete team of the West right now. Colorado is the sexy beast that could show up out of nowhere and just annihilate you. Vegas is just all flash and can win in a flash, and that's about it. And so Minnesota, I think, will be. I think Colorado would end up making the final. I would like to see that game. I would like to see that matchup if that's the case. But I think Minnesota will be a tough beat. So I mean, realistically, it's I'm leaning a little bit more Minnesota the more I talk about it. But yeah, Minnesota is going to be, and they proved it against Carolina a few times as well. And they proved it against the East. You got to keep in mind with Minnesota, with that team, they have 2 factors that work in their favor: travel and schedule. Yep. It's that simple. Travel and schedule. They have the best of both worlds, because they're literally smack dab in the middle of the country, and they don't have super long flights.
Exactly.
And you look at their schedule; they're not set up to go from California on a road trip and then go all the way to the East. They just gradually fly back home.
Yeah. And when you brought up Vegas, I've also heard rumors that Vegas is like, it's a do or die year for them too, because they're pretty much going through a rebuild after this season.
Because they're in cap hell.
Yeah, exactly. And then if I was to pick any team other than Colorado to watch out for, it would have to be Calgary.
I was thinking about Calgary. The only problem is I don't know if they could hang on to their spot.
I think what might be a downfall for them is their goaltending, and that's where they're going to be the most weakest at. Although Markstrom, he's playing his tits off, and just mentioning goaltenders, where the hell did Darcy Kemper come from? I mean, Christ.
He's been around. He's been on the wrong eyes. He's been on the wrong team, on the wrong everything. So yeah, he's been around.
Well, RJ,
it's kind of like Gibson. It's kind of like Gibson in Anaheim. I mean,
I
mean, you get Gibson on any other team. Gibson's like the Matt Stafford of the league. Okay,
I can see that.
You put Gibson on a Boston Bruins, on a Carolina, on a Florida, on any other team that has, or on Tampa. Just imagine Tampa without Vasilevsky, and you put Gibson on there, they still would be awesome. So
exactly.
There you go.
All right, RJ. I know before we did our show tonight, I was telling you that our show, it's kind of like a pay it forward kind of thing over the last couple of years. it's been rough for a lot of small businesses, local businesses, friends companies that rely on actual other companies to kind of help them out, bring money in to be able to ship stuff out. And this is more of like I scratch your back, you scratch mine,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And if you have anybody that you want to give a shout out to kind of like let them know what that company has done either for you or for family and friends, or if there's like a really small business that a friend owns, or even a small business that you go to every day that made it through the tough times over the last couple of years, just go ahead, give a shout out, explain what they are, and go nuts.
This is kind of funny because I was really asking you about this type of facility earlier, and you told me, well, I can't help because I live too far away. But my local gym here, the Hit Fit Gym, is the name of the company. They have 3 locations in the Orlando, Florida area. One literally 5 seconds from my house, one in the Apopka area just north of Orlando, and one more in the Claremont area, which is more west of me. They got me back in game shape, so that helps me out pretty well. If you ever been to Orange 3 Fitness, it's kind of like that, but without classrooms to kind of give
Okay.
you an idea. So they're a hit style gym with kickboxing mixed into it in a way. No class times or anything like that. You just show up and do your zones and go home. 35 minutes is all you need to work out, is what they always say. Um, Don Suarez owns the gyms, or he owns the Winter Garden one. Brandon's the guy that kind of puts it all together and is kind of like the CEO of the entire thing. And their Apopka location is franchised out, which is pretty sweet. During COVID, they actually did a gym from home video every week or every day and did their own zones that way. And they did like online classes. They just said, and just to kind of keep things going, their gyms were actually open during parts of COVID, which was nice. And they did their social distancing, which was already in place when they even started, but they didn't even
Yeah.
realize that it was a thing. So that was really cool. Um, but they have done a lot for what I needed to do to take care of myself, which was nice. Which coincidentally, my gym routine is as old as COVID for America. So I've been doing it since March of 2020. Which March of 2020, guess what happened?
Yep.
So it's kind of coincidental how that all worked out. But I owe them a lot. I told them that every day I walk in there, I thank them all the time. They've helped me with going through a lot of what I dealt with, just kind of like not really self-esteem or anything like that, but I just kind of threw in the towel, knowing that, hey, I can't play anymore. I can't do any of this. I just was like, all right, whatever. Then I had the kid and I kind of looked at myself. I'm like, all right, I just walked in there one day and TJ was my main trainer. He was a Marine, and I knew I was in trouble when I first started talking to him because he's a Marine, but whatever.
Just off
But
from
he
a box
convinced
of
me,
crayons.
not exactly, um, but no, I started with him, and it's just been gangbusters ever since. And I grew up a lot of friendships there and a lot of good relationships with those guys out there, and I kind of owe them a lot. And but yeah, it's called the Hit Fit Gym. So if you're in the Winter Garden area, definitely check them out. They're doing a bring a friend, get a free month promotion right now. So if you happen to be a gym member like myself and you happen to bring a friend in and they also sign up, you both get a free month of the price, which is pretty cool. But it's definitely worth a shout out. So that's my shout out for you, man.
And it's funny because I'm going to give a shout out to a small town gym in my hometown that opened up recently. But before that, earlier we were talking about Instilled Distilling Company. This is a military veteran owned company. He was also once a Raleigh cop. Really great guy, really down to earth. He has a couple podcasts out there. He does a show for Drinking Bros, and he also has his own podcast as well with Mike the Cop. It's called let me find it real quick because I wasn't prepared. I do apologize. Um, but yeah, really great guy. Go in. There's one drink that I love drinking. If you're familiar with a soda, cheer wine, they have a cheer wine and lime, and he puts spiced rum in it. I mean, it's like I'll go in there and I kid you not, I'll probably go through at least 6 or 7 of those when I have when I had a driver. Um, just make sure you do drink responsibly, folks. The other shout out I want to give to is the small town gym that I go to here. When I first moved back home, um, those that know me or hung out with me know that gym is my life. other than hockey and hockey related materials, kind of like Hank Hill and with propane and propane accessories. It's hockey and hockey accessories. But the gym's called Impact Gym and Fitness. Um, it's it's owned by a local family here, husband and wife. It's a tiny gym, but it's got what you need in there. So if you're in the local area of Messina, New York, or the St. Lawrence area, and you know where the Messina Mall is, or once called the mall, make sure you check it out. Really great deals. It does have first responder discounts as well as military, active duty, and also reserves. So make sure you check them out and just get out there, be active. Just like RJ was saying, I mean, you sometimes hit a rut, but once you get back in there, you'll be feeling extremely great afterwards. Um, so on that note, RJ, I just want to say thank you for joining me tonight. I know it's been a minute since we last caught up.
Yeah.
Make sure if you have a chance to get out to his tailgate this or actually a week from today. It's today is the 27th of February. I'm hoping to get this out at least by tomorrow. So make sure you get out there. Any last notes, RJ?
Not much. Just like you said, my tour starts this coming Wednesday as I drive up, and Thursday is the first game. And then you got Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sunday is the big tailgate against the Seattle Kraken. I will be there super early, although I put 5 p.m. But if you happen to be there an hour early, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to invite you to have more beer with me. That's really all. But Cutwater, Bubby's Barbecue, Storm Brew, Bud Light, it's all going to be there. Bring your own stuff, bring your own friends, bring your own family, bring whatever you want. All are welcome. And we want this to be one of the biggest tailgates this season for sure. So be a part of it, be part of the crowd, and let's go.
And one last thing, if people want to find you on social media, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can just Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Florida Caniac. They're all the same, believe it or not. I did that. It is a trademark, so if you try to use it, I will come after you. No, I'm just kidding, everybody. Don't worry about that part. But it is trademarked. But anyway, but yeah, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Florida Caniac. That's all you need to know.
And for us here at What the Puck Podcast, we are on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Just go to the search engines, type in What the Puck, you'll be able to find us. We do have a link tree. We don't have an OnlyFans account. Trust me, you really don't want me to have an OnlyFans account, folks. I have to look at myself in the mirror every day. I don't want to have you guys see me on the internet. So